ECW crossing the line again. Again. Apparently they already crossed the line. Like in 1994, I guess they did some shit. I don't know. It's ECW. Maybe the most historic show that I've covered here so far from ECW. Don't know if any lines were crossed. There wasn't even Nikki Cross or Killer Cross or Chris Cross. Nothing. But it is a very classic ECW show. We got brawls. We got old men beating each other up. We got tables and ladders and Lance Storm's terrible rat tail. There's a lot going on here. Big show, fun show, and you should stay tuned right here on the Apron Bump Podcast.
And the hardest, talk around and disregard it. Strip you off the ground, show you what heart is. Standing strong and proud, nothing can knock this. Let's get started.
What is up, everybody? What is up? Howdy, howdy, howdy. How is everybody doing today? Welcome to the Apron Bump Podcast. I am your host, the hardest part of the ring, Kyle Bird. We got a dandy and a half for you fellas and fellows today. ECW, crossing the line again. 1997 show here in February 1st of 1997. First ECW show. First super show / special event / PLE, whatever you want to call it, because they're not doing pay-per-views yet. However, that is soon to change, and we will get into that in the podcast. Lots going on. That's one of many historic happenings occurring on this show. We got certain debuts on this show, major debuts. I would say pretty major debuts. We got formations of tag teams that we are still feeling the effects of to this day. Big time show, big time wrestlers on this one. Wildfire, Tommy Rich. I know everybody's been asking me, hardest part of the ring. You cover a lot of wrestling, you cover a lot of timelines, but why have you not even touched on former NWA champion Wildfire Tommy Rich? Well, I soothe those concerns here with this episode because he's here facing off against Terry Funk. We got the tag team titles on the line. We got the Eliminators defending against the team of Rob Van Dam and Sabu, which is a doozy. Ravens defending the world title against Dr. Death, Steve Williams. We got the Pitbulls. The Pitbull number 1 is back from his broken neck, trying to get his revenge on Shane Douglas. Rick Rude is here, I think. It's very unclear. We got the Dudleys. We got all of the cast and characters that you love from ECW are here, and they put on a pretty good show. How good is this show, though? Well, you're going to have to stick around to the end of the podcast where the hardest promotion battle of 1997 continues here. ECW finally, I was going to say they finally get on the board here, but they're actually in the lead right now just because WWF and WCW have been shitting the bed so far this year. Because we taken the TV shows into account. So ECW's already got some points, but will they maintain that lead? That is to be determined. So make sure you stick around to the end of the pod. You might be asking, well, the hardest part of the what is hardest promotion battle? What in tarnation? What in God's golly name is that? Well, I'll walk you through it at the end of the show. But we compare WCW, ECW, and WWF. At this point in time, we compare, the best matches, the worst matches, best wrestling, all this stuff, right? The best and the worst overall stuff. There's points associated to different things, and we'll get into that. And whoever has the highest score at the end of the year, your boy will purchase a championship belt representative of that company. And as you can see in 1996, if I can get this belt, fucking hit my cat. And as you can see here, the winner of 1996 was the World Wrestling Federation. So they earned themselves a purchase of the Intercontinental Championship. Look at that. Oh, it's nice and juicy. Why was juicy the word I used there? I don't know. But who will win this year? Will I end up purchasing an ECW belt? TV title, world title. Hey, maybe I'll grab that big gray monstrosity that fucking like Mark Henry wore. You know what I'm saying? The Ezekiel Jackson ECW title. Maybe I'll grab that one. Who knows? But high stakes. We'll find out. It'll be a while till we get there. But until then, we got a fun show today with myself and the boys at the Smacked Raw podcast. Kyle and RN returning to the show. Always a good time with those boys. Go check out the Smacked Raw podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, as well as live on Twitch, YouTube, all that stuff. They cover all the major scuttlebutts of the pro wrestling world, this crazy world that we live in with pro wrestling. They have a good time on there. They a couple of guys just pulling each other's puds, having a good time talking wrestling. Ain't nothing wrong with that. If you like the kind of humor from this show, you'll enjoy their show as well. Fun guys, handsome guys, delicious guys. So go check them out. I'll put all of their socials and all of that shenanigans, all of that chicanery in the description below. Go check them out. Give them follows, give them subscribes, give them tickles in the belly button. What else? Follow me at Apron Bump all across the board on all the social medias, apronbump.com for all my full episodes, wherever you watch and listen. Hey, maybe you're just jumping on the train right now. You might be asking, you might be like, I don't know a lot about ECW, but I'll check out my boy, The Hardest Part of the Ring. Well, I'll let you know that I've covered every ECW show since their rebranding to Extreme Championship Wrestling back in 94. I have covered every single show since then. So go to apronbump.com, go to the episodes tab, select ECW, and that'll bring you to all of the ECW shows I've covered in chronological order. It's been a fun ECW. ECW is just like, it's what you expect. It's nonsense. It's gritty. It's a lot of weird stuff, a lot of fun cameos, but it's always a hoot. It's always a hoot. So go check that out. Binge away. I'm done babbling. Let's get to the episode here. ECW. Crossing the Line Again, 1997, with myself in the Smacked Raw podcast. How was shooting the babies, or photo shooting the babies? God, that was the worst way I could have phrased that. I don't even know if that makes it better, honestly, but that is your job, to be clear,
I'm a photographer. I do photography now.
Are you Kai Tai 8069 in the chat room?
Get him.
You better cut that out right now, all right?
We're not talking ECW. This is the Sting.
No, it's good, man. I love doing photography, and I was shooting some babies this morning. Like,
I don't know if you have Facebook or not, Pretty Kyle, but me and Kyle finally got to meet, and I went down there. He took some fucking amazing photos of me and my partner Adam.
Nice.
All of us while we were down there. It was fucking dope. Like, I mean, I knew he was good. I was like, hey, he's all right. He's a photographer.
Right. Is that you guys' first time meeting?
Yeah.
In person,
doing the show 4 years.
Ooh.
That was our first time meeting.
And the magic's still there, huh?
Oh yeah.
I guess you guys stopped doing episodes, maybe not.
It was like we always. You never would have guessed it was our first time hanging out though.
Right.
That was the cool part. You just started right in with the gay jokes. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
That's how you test the water. You throw them in right away.
Right.
And I made him wear dashiki. We recorded a show and I made him wear dashiki because the day after Juneteenth.
Screw all the personal reasons why we haven't recorded lately. No, it's because I essentially did a show in blackface.
Right. Well, if you would have given me the memo, I would have found something, put my dashiki on.
No, it was dope because, when you know somebody, like, yeah, we're friends and we've been doing this shit for years, but like being in the room and being in person with somebody, like, you never know how that shit's going to go. But even my buddy Adam and I took my partner, MJB, he was like, this motherfucker's one of us. I was like, I know, right? It's surprising.
Right.
Yeah, I know. Who would have thought? Who would have thought I'd be like a cool person to hang out with?
Right. And his boys, I love his fucking boys to death, man. They were so cool. Like, it was great to like finally meet everybody and be there.
Sorry, Kyle. This is the first time we've hung out in a while, so RN's just
don't mind me. Pretend like I'm not even here.
I've missed you too, RN. I loved having you here too, man.
Just check, Kyle. Do you have the right mic selected? I think it sounds okay, but
No, I the mic unplugged, so it may have swapped it to the computer. Thanks for saying something. That's happened
you're
before.
Jeez, pretty Kyle, give us a break. This is our first time recording.
can you guys get your
How
shit
about now?
together?
Is that better?
It's kind of the same. I mean, it doesn't sound bad, but it's not like usually you're like behind my neck. You know what I mean?
Well,
like your voice
you-
like makes the hairs on my neck stand up.
Our banner
Shit.
fell right before I clicked the camera up, and I didn't have time to put it back up. So
It's all good. I'll allow it. I'll let it
How
slide this
about
time.
does this make a difference?
yes,
I think
it
that
did.
is a little better. Yeah, there you go.
Okay, how about now?
Oh yeah, keep talking.
There it is.
A little lower, maybe.
A little bit lower. Okay, here we go. How about that?
Now say something racist in my ear.
You fucking wop.
It's not racist anymore. He's officially part of the black delegation.
That's,
anymore.
that's one of the
he's
safe
hard, huh?
racist terms, man.
Wait, what is? I think it's a new one.
No,
Hear it
it's
one more time?
Italian. It's an
Oh,
old Italian
wow.
one.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if there's any for Filipinos. I'm sure there is. Flip.
I think you just call Filipinos sluts. Like that's all you do. You just refer to them as sluts.
It's just crazy to me too, like all this shit about Kyle being racist and all that stuff, and out of all the people that's left, it's only the nigga, me and my guy.
So he can say it now, right?
He can't say that. That's
Oh,
only
okay.
not on camera. That's only in personal settings.
Right. Not while this record light is on. I see. I hear you. I hear
It's
you.
funny. He thinks that's a statement that makes me less racist when it's really he's the only one I didn't let go.
Right. That's fair. That's fair.
All right,
So again, that makes it does make
We'll
it
cut
less
that out.
racist if the black guy, if you're the racist recorder and you had 19 employees and the only one you didn't fire was the black guy, that makes you less
it's
racist.
affirmative
Is that a
action.
yes,
It's affirmative action is what that is.
No, but even with affirmative action, that gets you the job. That doesn't keep you the job. Normally, you're the black hire, but you're the first fired.
No,
Got to
I
have
was-
the
I was-
positive ratio in the workforce. Okay, so
was
this
flip-
is
I was
this is
flipping through
quickly
my notes
turning
to see
into
if there's
like
any.
understand Kyle doesn't have us on.
Yes, absolutely.
Believe me, you
don't-
fit right into the demographic. Not the racial one, but the you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Is Perry Saturn black? I was looking through my notes seeing if there's
I
any black
thought he
people
was
in the car.
like I thought that came out that
Dude,
he was in
no,
it,
he's
like he
white.
was mixed. No, I'm being serious.
Dude, he's white. He's just never. He's been in the sun his whole life.
No,
Dude,
I'm
like, that
serious.
dude-
Like he
the
was
dude
like
never goes
it was-
indoors.
Listen, bro, it's literally like a thing in the night where he was like white passing. Like I'm almost positive he is fucking mixed. Like legit. I'm not even making that up.
Well, I have a computer at my fingertips, so we got to make sure we have
It
all
was
the
either
context.
a fake fucking account or a fake fucking article. But like I swear, to God, I could be making it up in my head, like Mandela effect shit. But I could have swore he was biracial.
Well,
bro.
Wikipedia has his last name as Satulo.
Right?
Is that Hispanic?
Well, he has a bachelor's degree, so I think he's.
That's just fire.
Well, it's a mystery. It's like Taz. Like Taz says he's white, but are ya?
Yeah,
Are you
Taz ain't white. Taz ain't fucking white. That's the milkman's baby, bro.
I'll tell you what. Seeing Hook though.
Seeing
it's starting to
Hook.
convince me. Hook is as white as you can get.
My
Yeah, that
nephew
is
the
true.
same color as Hook. That don't mean nothing. My brother's black. My nephew is literally the same color as him, bro.
But Hook acts white too.
My
He eats
daughter's
chips.
white. My daughter's white, and I know she's mine. I got a DNA test to prove it.
Okay. All right. Easy, Maury. Easy. Well, speaking of that, speaking of DNA tests, there was a lot of DNA spilled on this little show that we were able to watch. ECW crossing the line again, 1997. What'd you guys think of the show? You guys, ECW, you guys familiar with this era of ECW at all?
This is my era of ECW.
Yeah.
This is I was fully entrenched.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
Tape trading.
I was watching it with new eyes. Like I didn't watch ECW in its heyday, and I've never been one to really go back and like watch older wrestling. So this was all new to me. For me, it was cool spotting guys earlier in their career, like hearing Lance Storm referred to as a youngster, which was pretty
debut.
interesting to me. Yeah.
Yeah, no, ECW. I was actually at Heat Wave '98 at Hare Arena, Dayton, Ohio. I've actually met Shane Douglas, Tommy Dreamer, and the Dudley Boys. I got an autograph that they signed on the back of a Foot Locker thing. We were school shopping.
Hell yeah.
And for my birthday, it was on my birthday. Heat Wave 98, August 9th.
Good shit. Yeah, that was like the peak ECW right there, which we're making our way towards it here. I don't know if we're quite there yet, but this show's pretty historic in the grand scheme of things. We got a few debuts here, and also the formation of one of the greatest tag teams of all time. So a lot happening on the show, and Wildfire Tommy Rich. Doesn't get any better than that.
I was just telling you, I went to a show like in March, and Tommy Rich's old ass wrestled in it.
I was watching. I think that match moved me a little bit more than the other ones because I started out looking at Terry Funk and Tommy Rich, right? Is his name?
Yeah.
Yes.
And I was like, well, shit. If for every Terry Funk, there's probably 100 forgotten old timey wrestlers too, because I didn't have a damn clue who he was. Right, I just saw some sweaty, overweight, like out of shape guy, and then by the end of that match, like both those old fuckers leaving their souls in the ring.
Yeah,
I was won over. I was a Tommy Rich fan, you know.
And believe it or not, Tommy Rich doesn't look that bad. He's like, he's a little bit more rounder and got a little bigger drum, but like, you wouldn't think he's 80 years old in the ring.
Yeah.
Well, he's
in 2024.
He's only 68 now, so. What that makes him?
That's almost 30 years ago. So he was, guy was
50-ish, right here.
Not even. No, you said 68 now.
Yeah, so this was
that would have put him just south of 40.
24 years ago. No, 27 years ago. Yeah. So like 41.
He would have been our age already.
Yeah,
Jesus
literally.
Christ. Holy shit.
It is crazy how much older 40-year-olds look in 97, because this is the same age as like Damian Priest is now.
Yeah.
Which is
literally
wild. That's gnarly. That's such an eye-opener. Yeah, he looked old as fuck. Like both of them did. Terry Funk was already in his 50s in that one. Like Terry Funk. Yeah.
Low key hunk Terry Funk. Like he was pretty. We'll get to it though. We gotta hold our Wildfire Tommy Rich loads. Just hold them, edge a little bit, and then we'll explode all over the place. But before we get there, this show opens up with old Paul Heyman in the ring with the rest of the roster, which, by the way, an element of this I liked is that all the baby faces were in the ring and all the heels were like on the stage. So they were like keeping them separated.
Kayfabe alive, baby.
Gotta love it. But basically he's here to announce the first ever ECW pay-per-view occurring about 3 or 4 months after this show, or only 2 months after this show, I think. Barely Legal is announced, and it's also announced that the main event will be Taz versus Sabu, which is a match that they had been building to for about a year. Paul Heyman like references all the internet rumors, which is crazy. Right. That's still a thing in 97. But what do you guys think? Barely Legal. Have you guys ever seen Barely Legal? Know anything about it? Thoughts?
No, I haven't seen it, but I'm going to watch it now because of the show you had us watch. It got me the promotional package and then the episode itself got me invested enough. I want to go back and watch it.
It almost didn't happen. Like even my mom worked at Time Warner at the time, and because of ECW's like reputation and stuff and everything, it was hard to get it picked up in certain markets.
I'm sure. Yeah, it's I've seen it once. It was actually like I bought one of the one night stands like 20 years ago, and it was like a free addition to it. And I watched it like at the time, but I didn't have any of the context of like what was happening in ECW. And that was like the first ECW show I watched. So like with those like raw eyes, I didn't really enjoy it at the time, but I'm sure I would enjoy it a lot more. Yeah, with all the builds out, like you said, the video package. They show a package of the Taz and Sabu feud, and Terry Funk
there was a shot during that package which I was like, I'd love a poster of, which was just an old wrestling trope with the lights going out and then coming back, and the lights came back and Sabu was in the ring posing, and Taz was just standing there across the ring, arms folded, like holding his ground, while the crowd behind him were absolutely rabid. And even in that low 280 pixelated video you sent us, like I could feel it through that. Feel the it was. I'd love like if there's like an image out there, like if you can find it.
There's got
And
to be,
the thing about all that is too, like I just hate that Taz was so loyal to Paul, because I feel like he wasted some of his better years trying to stay loyal, trying to stay with ECW. Like, we already knew WWE was going to burn his ass anyway when he got there, but I feel like if he had went maybe a year or two sooner, maybe even 3 years sooner, like I feel like Taz may have got more respect as a performer and not coming out in a fucking cut off jean jacket or whatever that jumpsuit shit is he wore.
Vince never would have let him been imposing at his size. Not during the 90s at that time.
No,
he
wouldn't have. But I mean, like it would have been hard to deny him with Taz coming out with the body he had, how stout, and at that time too, they were always trying to look for like the Street Fighter stuff and everything like that. Like, I think he would have. I don't want to say Daniel Bryan it, but I think he would have. I think the crowd would eventually got behind him, and he would have got a better run than what he had.
Possibly.
I don't know. My mind immediately goes to Farouk and how WWF treated him when they putting on the helmet and the goofy costume. I feel like they would have done something similar with Taz.
They did. They put him in, like Kyle said, a mechanic's outfit. He looked like he did breaks at Jiffy Lube and shit.
What was the Godfather's gimmick when he was like an MMA fighter?
Kama Mustafa.
The Supreme Fighting Machine, Kama Mustafa. Yeah, it didn't last very long. But WCW though, could he have been a cruiserweight powerhouse? Maybe.
Yeah, that same thing. I think he would have started out cruiserweight shit, and then eventually they would have saw he's the real deal, and he would have got bumped. He would have at least been like U.S. champ or something like that.
Dude, Prime Taz versus like Rey Mysterio, or Eddie Guerrero. God, I'm erect. But all's well that ends well, I guess. But he is here in ECW, one of the biggest stars they have. I think he might be dealing with an injury at this point, so he's not wrestling on this show.
Yeah.
But he's prominently shown. He's going to be in the main event of Barely Legal, so we got that to look for. It was a cool moment. You know, the whole roster's out there. The fans are going nuts. Paul's like, we finally get to show the whole world what we got here. And
was that on the show that we watched, or was that a recap from a previous show? Because the link that we looked at, it was kind of chopped up, so I had a hard time understanding the presentation.
It should have been the same. Yeah, I think it was a part of this show, from my understanding.
Okay. Yeah, it was, because I watched it on the network. I didn't watch it on that link. I watched it on Peacock, and it was part of the show.
Okay.
Yeah, the only difference is should be like the music they use and whatnot, but.
Let me see.
But
we're off to a hot start here. Right after that, we got.
Speaking of music, actually, really quick, I don't want to skip over this.
Please.
What an awesome soundtrack that
always
had lots of Metallica in there.
Yeah,
and they did the whole I know that this is in the reverse, but this is just because of where I'm coming from. AEW's what the hell? Where they're fighting the crowd and they're just continually playing the music. They were doing that with like Rob Zombie.
Yeah, that's an AEW. That's an ECW staple.
Yeah. Like, that was badass. Like me as a guy who loves like 90s and 2000s like metal music. Sold me on that alone too.
Yeah, for sure. The Sandman's entrance, the Gangstas, with who's it? Who sings their song? Not sings their song. Who raps their song?
Public Enemy.
Public Enemy. It is okay, yeah.
Yep.
It's just man, the vibe it gives off, the atmosphere. I mean, that's all ECW is, or not all it is, but that's like what makes them stand out.
That's what separates them is the atmosphere that they created.
Atmosphere and presentation for sure.
Speaking of presentation, I got a lot of questions about this opening match. So we got two debuts here. We got Lance Storm taking on Balls Mahoney, hailing from Nutley, New Jersey, of course. Balls Mahoney. Let's start with Balls here. Does not look like the Balls that I'm familiar with.
No.
He looks like he works at the tire shop down the street. Like they pulled him straight off. Like they pulled him from his lunch break to wrestle this guy before he went back to work.
That's like pretty accurate.
It looks like a lesbian to me. I don't know. It just looks like just the final boss lesbo.
Put a little rouge on you, tuck your snack back, really make the transition easy.
He's got the buzz cut, which you know he's known for like the longer hair and all that. He's got the buzz cut. He's got the jeans that are ripped, but like a little too much. You know, it's kind of like the style nowadays.
That's always been a staple, though. Like he rocked that all the way out. Like how he looks now is how he looked his entire fucking run through ECW. Besides, he grew the hair out. And he got his tooth knocked out.
Maybe that was what was wrong. He had all his teeth. That was the issue.
That and the hair. But no, he wore the spandex shorts with literally the jeans just there for no fucking reason. Like that was his entire look through his entire run at ECW.
I guess.
That was kind of his thing, honestly.
Good on you, balls. I guess. God bless you.
Right.
But almost more egregious is Mr. Lance Storm.
With the mullet.
The tail, spiked mullet with the tail.
Rat tail mullet, the shaved head and the shaved back with the tail. Yeah.
I don't mind the rat tail as much as the fact that it was just blonde.
Yeah.
Like just the tail part. I thought he had like tape on his neck or something that was like flapping off, but then I realized a few minutes in it was just his hair. His awful blonde rat tail. I mean,
what trend do you think he was chasing for that look?
I don't know what's happening. Balls is he? I don't know. I was alive in '97, obviously, but I wasn't, you know, in the zeitgeist of pop culture. I mean, were you guys dressing like this back then? Because you guys are much older than I am,
bro.
I grew up in some like white trash areas, so there were kids with like braided rat tails, like, you know.
No, I had that too at my school. Like, yeah, we had like the white people at our school like lived like in the trailer park in our county. So like it was the mullets, fucking Vanilla Ice, bricks on the side of her head, all types of fucking braided mullet, braided rat tails. I had one of my buddies, he had two of them. Like had it split in two.
Oh god,
pretty cool.
Oh yeah,
yeah. I wouldn't use that word, Kyle.
Cool.
You don't see it nowadays for a reason.
Hey, mullets are coming back. It's only a matter of time before we get the split braided rat tail coming back at you.
Full circle.
Someone's gonna start it. Let's one of us start it. Match is what it is. I didn't have too much to say about it. I was more just struck by the aesthetics of both these guys. What do you guys think about this opening match here?
I mean, typical ECW match, mixed styles kind of match. Like, I don't think it really showcased what either one of them eventually were known for. But I mean, like you said, for it to be their debut, you can see that Lance Storm. Yeah, will be better. So like, yeah, it was all right. I can't complain. Like I said, being that I've been in with the ECW shit from the start, like it was a typical ECW match. Mix of styles, throw them in there, see if you can make some shit happen.
Yeah, Lance Storm is like one of those wrestlers, like William Regal, where like I'm learning to appreciate them more as I get older than like I just didn't really get it whenever I was a kid. And although nothing in this match blew me away about Lance, there was that one spot where he leaped to the top rope to do almost like a Cody Cutter, but he did more of like a shoulder block instead after leaping to the top rope. That was pretty impressive.
Lance Storm is one of my top 5 favorite wrestlers of all time. Like that, and it's in my top 10. If you don't believe me, I got it. Like the blame.
You listen to RN long enough, his top 5 consists of like 50 wrestlers.
Depends on
Go back. I said all time, not right now. All time.
Okay. So
but the Team Canada run with Lance Storm, when he had like when he had all the belts, like the fucking J Cup and WCW, like that was like the best for me.
Yeah, no, he was beyond his time. Like I said, I appreciate the stuff that I hated as a kid, like the Team Canada and stuff. I think that stuff's like fantastic now.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was much more high flying in this match than I think he would end up being. The more of the technical master, I guess, as he would be known as later in his career. But you could, to your guys' point, you could see just the athleticism and just overall, just like, I don't know, seeing Lance Storm in a crowd full of like Balls Mahoney's and Axel Rottens who are just walking. Yeah. Here's a chair, out of shape fucks. Tommy Rich.
There was a variety. Like there's a full spectrum of the level of shape guys were in on display in this show in ECW. Absolutely. You know, they didn't. It's clear that ECW had a pretty low bar to pass as far as like your physical in-ring shape. And I mean that was kind of on par with the time in a lot of places, but it was definitely on display when Shane. Shane. What's the last name? Douglas. Thank you. When Shane Douglas came out and looked like Chris Masters compared to the rest of the roster that evening, it was pretty noteworthy.
Yeah, for sure. It's all over the spectrum here. Both these guys looked good. Definitely not near their peak. Balls Mahoney when he was the chair swinging freaks, his team, and that becomes his thing. And
him and Axel.
Seeing these guys early iterations of these guys was fun. Lance Storm ends up winning with a top rope missile drop kick, I think, something along those lines. So good stuff there. Fun opener, but boy howdy, I don't know if anything at this point in ECW is more over than the BWO, the Blue World Order. Thoughts?
What was with that too? I had no idea those guys were popular at any point.
Dude,
it was them making fun of the NWO,
and the NWO is still relatively new. They're 6 months in.
97 NWO was still hot at this point.
Still very hot, and the Blue World. So these guys, Stevie Richards, Blue Meanie, Nova. They went through a period where they were, imitating different things on the other channels. They did a Gold Dust spoof. They did the Blue Blood spoof, but then they did the BWO, which is what took off. the merch, all the BWO shirts in the crowd, the commercials on the TV show.
Yep.
The pop, just the reaction you could hear.
Yeah, Blue Meanie being Scott Hall,
the blue guy. They got Hollywood Nova, Big Stevie Cool, and a new addition here, 7-Eleven, who is spoofing Six, Sean Waltman with the camera and the leather vest, which is funny. So we got Big Stevie Cool taking on Ricky Morton, which why the fuck is Ricky Morton here? So many questions.
Also Ricky Morton and whatever Midnight Express, whatever fucking right, they were at that show too with Tommy Rich and them.
I'm sure.
Oddly enough, Ricky Morton doesn't look that much different nowadays as he did back then. Still look pretty old.
Doesn't. Secret. Look old from the get-go, and you'll never look old like Ric Flair. But Ricky Morton has some lady with him. I'm not sure if any of you guys are familiar with this tomato with the ass. This big show your tits chant. It's very classy from the ECW audience. Stevie does he's obviously cosplaying Kevin Nash here, so he's doing all the greatest hits, the big side slam, the elbows in the corner. I don't know, just the whole vibe of the BWO. What do you think of this? Kyle?
You know what? In the opposite direction, over the last couple of years, I've grown to kind of just be tired of Stevie Richards, and so
really,
I don't know, man. I don't really have a good explanation of it.
Oh, his YouTube videos of critiquing things and stuff.
Yeah, I feel like that's an aspect of his personality that I got to learn recently, and I don't know, it just didn't sit well with me. Nothing personal, just the opposite happened watching Maven stuff. Big Maven's actually pretty charming. But no, it was what it was. This match, I think, I was the least interested in all of them, which was the Stevie Richards, Ricky Morton. This was the one. This match had me going what did Kyle sign me up to watch? This is going to be a long 2 hours. I was checking how far into the 2 hours.
I wasn't joking when I said he literally picked the worst ECW show of all time.
Yeah, so I was, needless to say, this one I was apathetic for it. I didn't hate it by no means. You know what I mean? It's not my era of wrestling, to be honest. Although that doesn't mean I didn't appreciate almost the rest of the show. But this one match, I could have cared less for it.
I loved it. The match was ass. Everything about it was trash. But it brought me back to it brought me back to my childhood, because when I watched ECW, it came on Saturday nights at midnight, 1 o'clock on UPN or some shit, some channel we barely even got. I had to like,
Right.
I had could only watch in like one room in the back of the house with one of those fucking weird antennas and had to be pointed like 10 and 2 for it to come in the whole
hold it
time.
out the
So, like,
window. Yeah.
it brought me back to like a funner time in my life and shit, bro. Like staying up, trying to stay awake, fucking 9-10 years old, trying to stay up to 1 o'clock to watch it and shit.
Mm-hmm.
It was a nice little block. It was NWA Wild Side first, where I first seen Eric Paris and AJ Styles, and then ECW afterwards.
I mean, you guys don't like Stevie's 10 punches with the face fuck at the end?
I love it.
I liked
face
his
fuck
hair.
guy. Stevie's hair?
Yeah. I was like, guy obviously took care of his hair back then.
I mean, can you blame him? I mean, look at him. He's a beautiful
Right.
man. The Daisy Dukes, the crop top. This guy's ahead of his time.
He was very much so.
I love that he always wrestled like he really was 7 foot, like Kevin Nash and shit.
Oh, but the jackknife, powerful.
Yeah.
That he executed in this match. And there was a sweet chin music in there because, cosplaying one guy, might as well do the whole faction there.
The whole
I couldn't remember
right?
too. Like I remembered that he did the sweet chin music, but I couldn't remember if he stopped doing it when he went to Big Stevie Cool. But clearly he didn't. So.
Well, technically, it's the Stevie kick. It's not the
Right.
sweet chin
Yeah,
music,
they
so it's
called
very
it the
different.
Stevie kick. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good super kick, though. Not a bad super kick. But yeah, he wins. Big Stevie Cool dominates Ricky Morton. And yeah, so that happened. That was a thing that happened. You know what was also a thing that happened was Axel Rotten taking on Dr. Death.
He's the one that looks like a lesbian. He literally looks like
Who, Dr. Death or Axel?
no
Those are both
Axel.
kinda-
Axel definitely
okay, yeah.
looks like a lesbian.
Which is the hotter lesbian, Axel or Balls?
Balls.
Okay.
Yeah, Balls. Balls got some pretty eyes.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, when you put it like that, actually. But yeah, so this is kind of just a squash here to set up the next match.
I like that. I like that a dude could get finished by being dropped on his head. Like
We all have our kinks, man.
yeah.
Oh, that's literally 90% of the matches in ECW, honestly.
Yeah, no, and that was, like I said, that was me. That was like one of the first things. I was like, oh, I like that. I like the idea that a guy having another guy who's like really big pick you up and just jackknife you down on the back of your skull. That'd be enough to end the match,
And careers and lives. So
Yeah. But so I liked that was Dr. Death's finisher, was just dumping him on his head.
It works. It works. You would think that would end a match. You would think. Makes sense.
was this around the time him and JR were in WWE, or was it a little bit after this?
There's a little, but yeah, it's a little bit after this. I think that's
Okay,
98, I want to say.
Okay, yeah.
So we're at least a year away from that. But yeah, Dr. Death, because I haven't really seen that much Dr. Death. I've only seen his little bits in WWF at the time, and it didn't do much there other than get knocked out by Bart Gunn. So.
Yeah, get knocked out.
I fell down like a old school, like, what do they call the American
Rabbit
wrestlers
hole.
when they go to Japan?
Gaijins.
I felt like on YouTube and like Dr. Death was a fucking monster.
Oh, he's a beast. Every time I see like a highlight
Monster.
package or something of him, I'm like, God, I need to watch more of him. He's like the type of
Yeah.
wrestling that really gets to my cockles. Just big,
My-
meaty guy suplexing. That's what I need.
Yes.
Stan Hansen was that for me. Like
Yeah.
anytime I see like
Yes.
Stan Hansen like in a Japanese arena, and he's just pie facing and stiff arming audience members as he comes out. I love it.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
The
Bring
other
that
thing
back.
about those older Japan matches too, like those weren't like little fucking the twinks that are in fucking New Japan and everything now. Like these were 250-pound, 300-pound guys tossing each other around, beating the shit out of each other and stuff and everything. Like it was, I did not realize because like you said, same thing. Like I just looked at Dr. Death as like one of those fucking old guys that never went away, and then the fucking Oklahoma shit with JR and stuff. And then like I said, I fell down this rabbit hole like maybe like a year or so ago, and like he was fucking standing on business, boy. He was a fucking monster.
For sure. And he disposes of Axel pretty quickly. Oklahoma Stampede, power slam, followed by a backdrop driver for the win. But then it cuts to Joey Styles in the ring with Dr. Death, and Raven's there. Kind of just a weird cut. Everybody's all of a sudden there in the ring.
Yeah, I heard Joey Styles say, "I'm gonna go interview him really quick," and then they cut in, and all of a sudden Raven was there with Joey.
That's another thing too with Joey. He doesn't get enough credit for that, and I really wish they would do it more. Like the motherfucker literally do a whole match for 60 minutes, then run down to the ring and interview the people afterwards and shit, then run back. You know what I'm saying? Like he literally did everything.
Right. Joey Stott. So they brawl. Dr. Death and Raven do. I guess I don't even know if they really said anything in the broadcast that we saw. I guess they had some heated words with each other. But they scuffle. They have a bit of a fracas, and Todd Gordon, who's ringside, who's like the commissioner of ECW at this point, makes the match official. Dr. Death versus Raven. Raven, by the way, is the current ECW champion, so might as well make it a title match. So we got our world title match just smack dab in the middle of the show. Raven versus Dr. Death. A lot of bells and whistles to this one, but yeah.
This raised like one of the first questions for me, just because of like just not knowing ECW's layout and the personnel. The guy that called for the match, what was his name again?
Todd Gordon.
So what separates him on ECW's presentation from Paul Heyman?
Paul's a producer.
Yeah, but I mean, Paul also would come out and address the crowd and do all the promos. So, like, where did?
Yeah, because he was the producer. He never said he was like a bookkeeper or matchmaker. At this point, he was just the producer and director of the show. Todd Gordon was the on-air GM.
Yeah. So, what would prompt Paul Heyman to appear on screen?
Really serious business. It's kind of, I guess like an analogy would be like Triple H versus Nick Aldis. Like there's like the owner and the general manager
for big stuff,
serious
day-to-day stuff. Yeah.
Okay. That
or
works.
If any like big rumors coming out, he would come out and address the crowd. Somebody leaving, somebody coming in. Like it was something big. Like he did it sometimes a lot, but like on their actual like weekly shows, he never really came out like that. It was only on like before a pay-per-view or before a event he would come out and address the crowd.
Okay, so that's like I said, one of the things I wasn't aware of. I thought Paul Heyman was always the like on-air authority figure, booker, all that shit. Yeah, I didn't know.
Yeah, because Paul Heyman, because when he took over initially, he was still like on screen, just like a manager.
Yeah,
he managed like 911 and Sabu and things like that. And so it was like a transition into him being like the head guy. So we're like within the transition. So he's like kind of the owner, producer, but kind of still an on-screen talent. So it's kind of like back and forth with that.
Yeah.
But
and like a lot of it was at this time they were leaning into like the dirt sheets and shit and everything. So like people knew Paul Heyman owned it and ran it. But he didn't, like I said, it was only for like big things where he come out. Because even when they showed him backstage, it'd be like when they showed Triple H, he's in Gorilla and shit. Like I never did anything where it's like him making matches or anything like that.
He wasn't actually part of the on-screen presentation.
No,
like as
sometimes he was, but it wasn't like he didn't get involved in shit. It makes, like you said, come out where there's a big announcement, all the wrestlers are out there, shit like that.
Okay.
So this is a pretty classic ECW style match where they brawl right at the beginning, fight to the outside. Raven finds a chair, beats them all over the ring, beats up Dr. Death with this chair. This is a weird table spot where I guess it's like the not the commentary table, but whatever, producer's table.
It's a regular folding table. He started suplexing it onto him.
Well, that's
where the like bell.
That's Sandman.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. My bad.
It's like the bell keeper and timekeeper. They always had that like the table like your grandmother had like in her hallway, straight across or something, like under the mirror or some shit, like one of those. It'd always be up against ringside because they didn't have an announce team because Joey did it up top.
Raven tries to leg drop Dr. Death off the second rope, but misses. So Raven goes cascading through the table. They kind of start throwing bombs in the ring. Dr. Death with a big German suplex, which is what he's known for, suplexing bitches, and Raven with the superplex. And then all the tomfoolery starts to happen. Did you guys follow all the BWO shenanigans that were happening here towards the end?
It was a little bit of everything. I'm not gonna lie, it's all over the place.
So, for context, Raven currently he has Sandman's ex-wife and son like, as a part of his cult. So the Lori and Tyler, that's who Raven has as his flock. But also Stevie was a part of the flock. But ever since this BWO stuff has started to explode, Stevie has started to separate himself from Raven. So now we're in this spot where it's like, is Stevie still with Raven? Are they still together? Raven's kind of abusing them a little bit. Stevie's not going to take it anymore. So that's what's kind of happening here. Stevie and Raven are kind of shoving each other. And I believe Stevie like throws a super kick, but misses Raven and hits Dr. Death. Do I have that right? You guys remember?
Yep.
Something along those lines. And then Raven gets military pressed by Dr. Death onto the BWO. And at some point, Stevie, I guess, tries to recruit Dr. Death to be a part of the BWO, which I don't know which part of the NWO he would.
The Scott Norton, I guess.
Yeah.
Scott Norton, for sure.
Yeah, that's pretty spot on, actually. He's not going to be Virgil or anything, so I guess that's the only option. But Dr. Death rejects this shirt. He's none for this chicanery. He rips the shirt. Stevie with a Stevie kick. Dr. Death no-sells it. Stevie tunes it up. That's the problem. He didn't power it up first, so he stomps him out a little bit. Gets
Warm
some
the
more
band
power.
up.
Kicks him again. Dr. Death is a little bit more hurt, but he's still not knocked down. Goes for a third kick. Death blocks it, but then Stevie rears back and hits another one. And this allows Raven to hit his even flow DDT for the win, which I guess, according to Joey Styles, this was Dr. Death's first U.S. loss in over a decade, which is, I don't know how many matches he's had in the U.S. in the past decade, but pretty significant win, I guess. I thought this was pretty fun. What do you guys think?
No, I wasn't mad at it. Like I said, it was typical ECW stuff, especially with Raven. Raven was the world champ, but you never know when the hell he was just going to come out and fuck the show up and have an impromptu world title match for no reason. So it was on par. It
was good to see. I liked the chaotic pacing, which I've always known about ECW is it's a very like fluid happening like presentation that they seem to have, and this kind of like reaffirmed that how it went from the squash match to the confrontation, like to a brawl into a match to overbooked like interference shenanigans, like you said, a recruitment spot, join our team, betrayal, and like it all just it was the wrestling equivalent of a giant like run on like sentence, it just and but it was good. It's funny because like we as a culture, I'm gonna get oddly deep here. We've spent a long time having like our attention span like shrunken, and it's like it almost actually kind of cues up great with how ECW would run these shows, because it was just one thing after the next, like just keeping you engaged. Yeah, and it was a lot of fun. I liked it.
Yeah, they accomplished a lot in a relatively short period of time here.
It feels like all of that happened in like 12 minutes, maybe.
Yeah, something like that, if that, honestly.
Yeah.
Because like there were no entrances or anything. No, they cut in and out, like you said, different segments within the segment. So very, very well paced, at least from a viewer's perspective, watching it after the fact. So good stuff there. But boy, howdy, we got something special here next. We got the Sandman taking on Devon Dudley. Which seems weird on paper, just out of context. But for the context of where we are in the Dudley storyline. So the Dudleys, so we got Bubba, Devon, Big Dick, Chubby, dances with Dudley, Sign Guy Dudley, Spike Dudley. The odd one out coming into this show was Devon, because the rest of the Dudleys were like a comedy act. Like they were like very fan friendly. Bubba and his stutter,
dancing and shit.
Yeah, all the dancing and like it's very fun, happy-go-lucky, and Devon's like very vulgar and like, what the fuck are you guys doing? And like, is several different shows in a row where Devon's come out and been like, you guys are disrespecting the family, you dishonor my family, like all that stuff.
Also, I just want to point out, Devon's dad was white, and look how black he is.
He is significantly black. So.
Let it go, man. Let it go.
I think people don't realize that literally Devon was supposed to be that, like they're all supposed to be related. Like they all have the same dad, Papa Dudley. Like, you know what I'm saying? And they bring the black guy in.
He traveled. to the south side of
Papa
Dudleyville, I
Dudley.
believe is where
Papa Dudley was a Rolling Stone.
he sure was. Respect him. But yeah, so Devon's been the odd man out. He's been having matches with Bubba, trying to convert him or just to fight him because he doesn't like him. So that's where we're at coming into this, which makes what happens later all the more significant. Which I guess we'll get to that when we get to that. But we have Sandman here taking on Devon again, just very like classic ECW with the Metallica entrance. I mean,
here's a hot take. As a guy who the first time I saw Sandman's entrance was One Night Stand, this entrance was kind of a letdown. I saw them in the wrong order. You know what I mean?
Right.
I could have seen Sandman with all of these matches and then culminate, with his big One Night Stand. But since that was like my introduction, watching this was like a bad tribute band. I'm not gonna lie. I was like halfway through the entrance.
Try watching the Peacock version.
Right.
I mean, it just completely kills it. And that's the sole reason I sought out this, obscure link that I have is to experience Sandman as he's supposed to be experienced.
By the way, just I'm sorry to jump to like the finish here, but before I lose it, the link you sent us was clearly censored, right? They were bleeping out every like shit and fuck throughout the entire show up until the ending of the show with the masked man. And then they just let every F-bomb fly at that point. Like, completely uncensored.
So this is not the only show where that's happened. It's always very inconsistent. I don't know what the line is. There's some shows where Devon's cutting a promo and he's dropping F-bombs every other word and you could hear them all. But Shane Douglas says shit one time and it's bleeped. So it's like...
Yeah.
I think back then it might have been the time frame, like after a certain time, maybe.
Maybe it hit like 11:30 p.m. and it's like, all right. You can get away with it.
There's a language curfew. Yeah, it's like Comedy Central back in the day.
I'm about to say, Comedy Central. That was the thing is you could see tits on Comedy Central at like 2 a.m.
That's when the good comedy specials were on after midnight or whatever. You could watch them uncensored. I remember. So that could be it.
That could be.
That could be it. But yeah, so Sandman Devon, Sandman always amazes me watching him wrestle because he's like kind of what you would expect, but also kind of not.
Yeah, he jumps off the screen to you, sometimes surprises you with some shit.
I mean, he does the RVD barricade leg drop off the apron. Maybe not as smoothly as RVD, but he's still, he'll do planches over the top rope. He'll jump into the crowd. I don't really know if he did that in this match, but I think he was more concerned with trying to suplex this table onto Devon, which, I mean, what the fuck? It did not
work. It did not work on either attempt, man.
It's like he didn't see the corner because he's on the outside.
Yeah.
And the outside area is not super wide. So he's trying to suplex this table.
Also, not even. One side was clearly wider than the other.
They're ripping the barricades back and forth. The ring's probably not anchored right. I don't know, but that did not work. He kept hitting the corner post and missing Devon. But even if you do suplex a table onto a guy, like how much could that hurt? I don't know.
Well, eventually he moves on to suplexing the barricade.
Yeah.
Which I think works better.
Yeah.
Maybe?
Yeah.
Sandman's in there, finds a Singapore cane, starts abusing Devon with it, hits him in the face several times with this cane, DDTs him, grabs the chair, puts the chair on Devon's face, hits him with a top rope leg drop onto the chair, onto Devon's face for the win. So Sandman gets the win here. That's not really the story because afterwards, Joe Gertner gets in, who's like the one of the announcers, recently turned heel announcers, just a sleazeball kind of guy.
The best announcer in the biz, bro, at this time for sure.
Yeah, the what do they call him? The stud muffin. It's like this. Fuck, what is it? It's like a obnoxiously long nickname.
I can't remember what it is.
I don't know.
You know what? Damn it, I didn't think to write it down, but I know what you mean.
The insequential stud muffin. Oh, something along those lines.
It's something like that. Yeah. I remember the insequential part of what the quintessential stud muffin.
Quintessential. That's what it is. Thank you. We got there. But he gets in there and says, wait, no, actually, Devon won in a score of 4-2, which I'm curious as to what the scoring system is. But,
It's like AEW's.
Yeah. They got their ranking system in place. But
Right.
Sandman takes none too kindly to this. He obliterates Joel Gertner with his Singapore cane. Devon tries to help out Joel, jumps on Sandman, but in come Bubba Ray and Spike Dudley, both with chairs. They square off with Devon because they had been at odds for months and months at this point, if not a year.
Mm-hmm.
Joey Styles is like, oh, Devon's in trouble now. And at that moment, I knew what was going to happen.
Yep.
But Bubba Ray takes his chair, does not hit Devon, but he hits Sandman right in the head with this chair.
Was
And the
Sandman
birth of the Dudley
aligned with
Boys.
them?
What's up?
Was Sandman aligned with them?
No. Sandman was just like a bystander. He was just a...
No, what he's talking about is like why they came out tough. Like ECW was actually like smart. Like if your buddy's getting your ass whooped, it wasn't all just stay
I
in
see
the
what you're
back.
saying.
Like they'd actually go out and try and help.
So that's what I was saying is because the shock on Spike's face was like, you know, like that was our friend, you asshole. And so that's what I was wondering is like, was there
Yeah,
an
and it was more so
association
too
with
Bubba doing it to protect Devon
Yeah.
because they had been feuding, like you said, for like a year.
Got you.
Yeah. I think it was more that rather
More
than
you didn't hit Devon than how dare you
Right.
hit Sandman. I got you.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
This is the birth of the Dudley Boys as we know it.
Yes.
That's pretty dope.
Pretty huge moment here, and we get the first ever 3D.
Yes.
Yeah, the
On the
double
show.
Bubba cutter is what they called it. I noticed.
Right.
Yeah.
It looked, I mean, for the first one, looked pretty good. It definitely looked brutal. Like they definitely
Yeah.
didn't like
Because Spike's
they-
body weight landed
Yeah.
on them, so like the way he flopped off didn't look like natural. It wasn't like a regular face bump.
Right.
Okay,
kind of
you got, like,
spiked into the
contorted.
mat a little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, really cool moment. And then that just, I mean, the Dudleys are off to the races at this point. Sandman's still there. They still just kick the shit out of Sandman. Chairs and canes to him. But who makes the save? None other than the Gangstas. New Jack and Mustafa come out. They throw a trash can in the ring. I think there's a kitchen sink in there somewhere.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yes. What's
great?
You know what? I don't know why I would have thought any different. But having the preconceived notion that ECW was hardcore and these guys were brutal, unprotected chair shots, every time I saw a guy clearly protecting his opponent with a weapon, like stuck out like a sore thumb. And the kitchen sink was a prime example because he was like just treating it almost like a shake weight, and he never was like even coming in contact. Like it was, I found it. Oddly enough, I found it adorable. Like just like this whole like I got you, buddy, in the midst of like all this blood and chaos, and the guy is being very, very safe and gingerly with his opponent, and that stuck out like crazy to me.
Public Enemy on the sound speakers, and you just got this jabbing him with a sink in the corner. Yeah, it is very it does fit the ECW kind of. It's like, you know, he probably just didn't have a weapon and he saw a sink. He's like, let me rip this out of the wall.
But it also lets you know that he liked them.
Yeah.
So I guess Gangstas and Dudleys is on deck is what I would assume from this segment here, because they kind of go at it. I think the Gangstas get their shots in once they storm the ring, but the Dudleys kind of end up on top here. So
yeah.
The tag division in ECW, I mean, is pretty good. It's definitely a bright spot at this point.
Mm-hmm.
We'll talk a little bit about that. Is it the next match? Yeah, the next match. So good stuff here. Any other nuggets on this whole match segment, all this hoopla?
No, like you said, it's just like an important part in wrestling fucking history. This is the formation of the Dudley Boys.
And they will soon be vying for the tag team titles, I'm sure. Speaking of which, we got the tag team titles on the line. We got the champions, the Eliminators, team of John Cronus and Perry Saturn, taking on the team of Rob Van Dam and Sabu. Whoo, this is just, I mean, just four really dynamic and fun and chaotic wrestlers.
Yeah.
So this was just, it was just like a bunch of moves back to back, but goddamn it, was I entertained by this. I mean, any spots in particular stick out to you guys in this one?
Yeah. So I was watching this match, and it was during this point it dawned on me that we didn't have any like stereotypical chants going on in the crowd, and I was finding that refreshing. I found myself, I was like, oh, they weren't whatting the promos earlier. I haven't heard this is awesome. I was like, it's crazy how this show is so chaotic and we don't hear like you fucked up chants. And immediately when I have that thought, the crowd started chanting you fucked up. And
I was about to say that's where you fucked up came from.
Yeah. And I was like, what did I miss? So I rewound the clip a couple times, and it turns out I found out like Sabu had tried to that leapfrog from the chair to the rope, like a plancha off screen. And he fucked it up. And so he went, and by the time he hit it on camera, it was actually his second attempt. At least that's what I think it was, because the crowd started chanting it and nothing happened on camera. So that's the only thing I could think of.
Yeah.
That's probably what happened.
Thing.
Yeah, I was about to say,
Checks
that's
out.
what happened.
It is like Sabu, I feel like at this point, unfortunately, he's known as the guy that botched a lot. But dude, watching this era of Sabu, he's so crisp in the ring. Like maybe crisp, might not be the right word, but how
Smooth.
often he does that triple jump like off the chair onto the ropes and hits it, like the percentage that he hits it, it's unbelievable. Like it's an unbelievable move that he can hit it that often. I'm pretty sure he does it at least a few times in this match, but
yeah, the share to rope work is fucking immaculate. Like with Sabu, especially at this time, this was kind of when he was at his peak, honestly, especially leading up to the shit with Taz. Like this was the star of ECW, honestly, at this time for real.
yeah, I mean, he's definitely the most unique, probably wrestler that they got. I mean, both him and Rob. I just love how like their improvisation. Like, I could just do a leg drop here, but I could like grab this chair and jump off the first rope and do a spin and hit a leg drop. So it's a lot of that. It doesn't always look good, but it's
it's called the Arabian face buster, just him sitting on your head with a fucking chair.
Right. Anything Sabu does is an Arabian, whatever the hell.
I thought that this match would be right at home in the current climate of wrestling in companies like AEW. I didn't find too much that separated this from the current product that we have. You know, obviously this generation's talent is consistently more in shape. However, like Perry Saturn and his tag team partner looked in phenomenal shape. I don't know if I've ever seen Perry Saturn look as athletic before, because I was introduced to Saturn in WCW, so I had never seen him before that. And them hitting big splashes off the top rope and just looked buttery smooth. They looked like a more coordinated. They looked more coordinated throughout the match than I think RVD and Sabu did, where Sabu and RVD embody a lot of chaos. Saturn, and I hate that I don't know his partner's name. Cronus. They looked like just crisp. Like they looked like they had every step along the way. And I missed something.
No, at this point they were like one of the top tag teams in the world at this point, because this is kind of
they were champs. I bought it at the end of the match. I understood why.
Yeah, this is early on with Sabu and Rob Van Dam too. So like that's another part of like their cohesion, I guess. But no, like the Eliminators were literally they were at the top of their game, like PWI 500 and shit, and all that shit, like top tier tag teams at this point. And like you said, their athleticism and them incorporating the martial arts, like even their finisher, total elimination and all that shit, like they were like some of the first ones to incorporate all of that and make it look good and not just like motherfuckers throwing a bunch of super kicks and shit. You know what I'm saying? They actually use, especially Saturn, actually used his martial arts background in his matches.
Yeah, because the most I have to remember Saturn by, which he was always a wrestler that I like kind of stuck out to me. Like I always kind of wanted to like, but he just never got to do anything like really cool. Right. But whenever Saturn, I did watch him growing up, I always liked the rings of Saturn. And then maybe because I was a kid with terrible taste, But I also liked his whole like moppy storyline and shit that he had. so this side of him actually helped my appreciation grow for the wrestler, because I was like, oh, he actually did do some cool badass shit. I was just introduced into pro wrestling too late to see it all.
Right.
Yeah, no, I was on the same boat as you before I started this whole rewatch of ECW. Like, I had only known Perry Saturn from the Moppy stuff and the Radicals, and like he did some cool. When he had times to shine, it was like, oh, this guy's kind of a beast, but he didn't really he never had a sustained run.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Hell,
his
even Dean
Eliminators
Malenko
run-
got more prominent storylines with him trying to force himself on the Lita stuff.
Yeah,
Perry
light
Saturn,
heavyweight champion. Yeah.
yeah, no, Perry Saturn like took a hit to the head and became mentally disabled, and that was that's shit. I didn't realize we had two disabled characters back then. Goddamn.
He can love who he wants to love. It doesn't make him disabled. It's 2024. Come on, he's mop sexual. But yeah, the Eliminators, like as a team, is like, or it's like Rob Van Dam, Sabu. They just started teaming at this point. They actually had a feud. They were fighting against each other for several months. That's how Rob was essentially introduced to the company. And then it bled right into a tag team partnership. So they're still finding their cohesion. They're still very much like singular. They're each singles guys in a tag team. Whereas the Eliminators, I mean, they just got the chemistry down pat. Like you guys said, the total elimination, which it is still known as that pretty much to this day. A bunch of tag teams try to throw their spin on it, but nobody does it better than Cronus and Saturn here. And yeah, at this point in wrestling, like it's I don't even know who would be number 2 as far as tag teams. Like maybe the Harlem Heats, or there's not a lot of good tag teams, at least in American wrestling at this point. But yeah, this is just loaded with crazy. I mean, the Rolling Thunder with the Sabu leg drop, which is a spot that they would like. They do the corner splash and leg drop coming towards
at the same time. Yep.
The ring.
That was cool because I was introduced to that spot through the Hardy Boys. So to see that was done prior to them, that was kind of shocking to me.
Stolen.
That's ECW, man. ECW started a lot of stuff that would become mainstream hits in the Attitude Era, WCW. We got Cronus. He's doing all these back handsprings, a lot of martial arts from pretty much all 4 of these guys. Then at some point, we begin to bring the extreme into it. We start bringing tables into the ring. Saturn. So what? They bring a table in the ring, and then Saturn whips out the world's oldest ladder.
Yes, I love that ladder, by the way.
This is not a WWE, let's clean this up, let's prep it, let's make sure it's sturdy. No, they just found this ladder somewhere. Fuck it, throw it under the ring. We'll use it later. He sets up the table and then puts the ladder on top of the table, which I'm just trying to think what best case scenario is with this, because somebody climbs. I think Saturn climbs it, right? So did he just want to get higher?
Yeah, it looked like he was going to use it as a perch to jump off, because it was being braced by his tag team partner on the bottom. So it looked like he was getting ready for a spot to do some type of leaping maneuver. But as we know, because of the angle of the table and the ladder, he would have had to have jumped sideways. And as we know, in countless wrestling spots gone wrong, you cannot leap sideways off of a ladder, so I knew something was afoot.
They're still in '97. They're still figuring out the physics of ladders in wrestling.
Yeah.
Saturn's also a madman, so I don't think he really cares. But he climbs this ladder on top of the table, and Sabu missile drop kicks this whole contraption. It all comes tumbling down. I don't know how all these guys walked out of here, but RVD and Sabu with a double ladder clothesline, leg drop. They're using the ladder as weapons. At one point, Rob Van Dam and Sabu both they set the ladder in the middle of the ring. They both climb it. Sabu's reaching for something, I think, but there's nothing hanging from the rafter. I don't know. He doesn't know where he's at. The Eliminators then hit the total elimination onto the ladder, which sends both Rob and Sabu down to the mat, which is funny. And then Sabu. Oh, it was after that actually where they sit at the table with the ladder on top of that. So much chaos here. Rob with the Van Terminator to Saturn with the chair. Sabu with the triple jump, but Saturn shoves RVD. So Sabu was going for a triple jump moonsault on the Cronus, but as Sabu was running up the ropes, Saturn forearms RVD in the back of the head, which sends Rob in the place of Cronus. So I think Sabu like lands on Rob, and then they hit the total elimination to RVD, and the Eliminators get the win. So lots of chaos, but it was a beautiful chaos. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, this match is what like sucked me into the whole event, where I was like, okay, I'm happy, I'm watching this. It's got my attention. I'm gonna see it through. This was the one. But you'll always win me over with like good work rates and cohesive moves. And this was a blend of everything I like. I love chaos. I love overbooked matches, and then I love seeing people who are like legitimately very well talented in the ring as far as like what they're capable of doing. And this match had like everything that I look for.
Oh yeah. And after the match, it keeps on going. Another total elimination to Sabu. Rob at this point is back up. He throws a chair at Cronus, but then in comes Taz, who was going to be facing Sabu at the pay-per-view coming up. He hits RVD in the head with the chair, hits him in the back with the chair, chokes RVD out, and Sabu's laid out. Taz grabs the mic, looks at Sabu and says, "Look at your destiny, motherfucker." And then that's pretty much it. Alfonso's out there. I thought the Taz interaction was pretty nice. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, he didn't even have to get physical with Sabu too. I liked how he sent him a message. He teased like he was gonna hit him in the head with the chair, and then he's like, "Nah, you guys have him," motioning to Sabu.
You gotta pay for that, everybody.
Right. This also made me bring back. I forgot that he was Alfonso was with Taz first.
Yeah, you can't miss Alfonso with that goddamn whistle.
Right.
Nonstop. But it fit somehow. It fit. Well,
it was like that dude was trying to manufacture like chaos.
Yeah, he was. That's literally what he's about. Yeah.
Just manufacture like everything. Was like, oh my god, he just kept like bouncing into the ring ropes. I noticed. He just sit there and just like lightly shake the ring ropes a little bit while he
and his voice is. The whistle and his voice are the two most annoying things ever.
My man Taz. Yes. Oh yeah, he's so good. So good. He's kind of like almost like the Nana to Swerve, where it's like they don't they shouldn't go together, but for some reason they do.
Yeah.
What we got? Shout out to Nana during a Swerve's match recently, because this being shot after All Out. Nana really added to that match, by the way. Like Swerve was like dying, and Nana was like, "I'm here with you, man. Like I'm right here." I was like, "Oh shit."
What people don't realize is Nana's been a dope ass like manager and like head of like different factions and shit for like the past like fucking 20 years. Like this isn't just somebody that just like plucked off the indies now. Like he's been doing this. He's one of wrestling's most best hidden gems over
Day
the last
one Ring of Honor guy.
Yeah,
I'm at the point in my timeline in Ring of Honor where he's starting to build the embassy. So he was still going at it 20 years ago. It's crazy. It still kind of looks the same too. It don't crack. But we got a bit of a different match. After that, we got Wildfire Tommy Rich, former NWA champion, taking on Terry Funk. This match kind of banged. Kyle, you said it moved you. I think that's a perfect way to describe what was
these
going
old motherfuckers went at it, bro. It was fucking magic, bro. It was magic.
No, it really was. Like, don't get me wrong. It's not. It didn't. It found its way into sucking me in because although I respect the man, like I completely missed Terry Funk's whole career, and he's part of generations of wrestling where I'm not particularly a fan of the style and the in-ring action. And so he just kind of represents a genre, although that I appreciate, I've just never personally been a fan of. And then this other old geezer, I I just set myself up. I was like, okay, cool. This is going to be the match where I can pay attention to the road because I was driving during this. And oddly enough,
You were sucked into the tag team match. Fucking old ladies are getting run over while you're watching.
Yeah,
Sabu
man.
do moonsaults.
and then oddly enough, no, man, these guys were spilling blood and just going at it and just being like old bastards. And just won me over with heart alone. Like,
It's-
Yeah.
I was gonna say it sucked me in because I just saw Tommy Rich a few months ago and he did not move like he did in this match, and that's saying something. So, like it just kind of brought stuff full circle for me. Like and like I said, like Terry Funk, the things that he could do at the age he was especially during this time.
because I think he said in this match he was like 53.
Yeah, he was retirement age and still, and he at one point it's world championship too. So like it's the barbed wire match that he had with Sabu, like so like this definitely, like I said, all of this was just like a trip down fucking memory lane of my childhood and shit. Like this, but these old fucks went at it. Like this was pretty dope considering how old these fucks were.
Yeah, I just found myself. What was the other fellow's name? You said Rich.
Tommy Rich.
I just found myself like wondering. I was like, dude, if this dude just got in shape, like if he just dropped like 40 pounds, like,
You fat fuck.
Yeah.
That's brutal.
Yeah, dude. Like, but I was like, he'd be a fucking monster. Like I was like, he's got everything. And I found myself critiquing a lot of wrestlers like that. Was like, you guys are what inspired current generations to fill the holes that you had in your game. And that's why it's because of your generation that like you guys showed how talented you can be and not be the total package. That now that's like we have wrestlers who are striving for like near perfection, trying to fill in every hole that they saw the previous generations have. And I thought that was pretty cool because I was like, these guys obviously have a lot to offer pro wrestling. And so, yeah, no, it was like I said, I found myself appreciating. Like, I think that's the word I'm gonna keep coming back to.
Yeah.
Was this shit. And this match was up there, dude. It was badass. It was fucking hardcore, dude. It was pretty awesome.
Dude. Yeah, there's something like watching two old fucks beat that. Well, at least I say old fucks. It's like a 40 and a 50-year-old. So they're not that old, but they came off as old watching this. So much blood from both these guys. There's something just so raw and real about watching two older guys just beat the living shit out of each other.
Yeah.
It sucked me in too. I mean, it was almost like romantic watching this. Just like, man, these guys really just don't like each other and they want to kill each other. Like it sucked me in. But the overall story here is that Terry Funk, he's making one more run to be a world champion. So he's seeking the ECW championship, and this is kind of a match in an effort to, I guess, gain a win, gain credibility in doing that. And Tommy Rich is like, hey, who do you think you are? I don't know. I don't know why Tommy Rich is here, honestly. But yeah, they're beating each other all over the ring and the crowd. Terry's beating the hell out of him with a chair. And what else happens? Both guys are bleeding a lot. Terry DDTs the ref at some point after he got a 2 count.
Twice. Yeah.
He's not a fan. I think it might have been a bit of an overreaction, but who am I to say? A couple spinning toe holds in this one. Throwback. We got Tommy Rich busting out the spinning toe hold, but Terry Funk, who is the master of it, fights out. Funk knees him in the balls and locks in. You don't see a lot of spinning toe hold tap outs nowadays, but
no, you don't. I ended up missing it because I was, you look at these, a lot of the exchanges with them, and nowadays they're just transitions, right. So seeing this, like him going for the spinning toe hold, what's coming next. The guy's gonna raise a boot and just boot him off of him, or roll with it. And next thing I know, they're saying like he tapped out or the match is over. And I found myself once again like, what the hell did I just miss? And having to rewind. And yeah, just a basic spinning toe hold. Not even like sunk in where he's like laying down, locking it or nothing, just standing over the guy.
I didn't know if you
it was pretty neat. Once again, I like it though. I love it when I see like a move that should fuck you up end a match, you know,
Right.
And having your knee or ankle shredded in that. Like, I get it.
Yeah, because we're conditioned nowadays. You need a cinder block. You need to do a move on the apron or off the top rope or through tags. But there was a time where you just hit your big move and that was it.
That was it.
It's something special about that for sure. I agree.
I like how Terry Funk danced like he was like going to Richard Simmons like workout class or something.
That was like his thing though, right? That's at least what I associate with Terry
The
Funk.
spandex, the off the shoulder
Right.
headband, like he's a maniac in the squared circle.
It's crazy because he had like decades of career before this, where he just wore like regular wrestling tights and was a wrestler. That's completely foreign to me. I only know this ECW Terry Funk.
That's me too. This and Chainsaw Charlie and all that shit. This is the Terry Funk that I know.
I mean, yeah, that Born to Be Wired match and, you know, the barely legal stuff that he's involved in. I would almost argue his peak is still yet to come.
It is.
In the mainstream, which is crazy to say. He's already retired like 2 or 3 times at this point.
Yeah, I was watching him and I was like, I remember seeing this guy as Chainsaw Charlie. I was like, it was just one of those
over the head. Yeah.
Yeah. It was just like one of those weird things where it was like, okay, yeah, this guy has an entire career. But once you get to like WWE, you know, you had to start from scratch all over again. But
this run that's about to come up is what got him signed to WWE.
Yeah, no, just like I said, it's just odd that, you know, a guy with such and you know, when we saw it for years that followed, but just seeing another instance of a guy who had a well-defined career and identity and in history just get rewritten on a dime, you know, the moment he signed with WWE, which I get it, you're going to get introduced to a new audience, but it was just, like I said, it was just a thought. I was like, oh man, this guy became Chainsaw Charlie after all this crazy shit. Yeah.
I think I heard something or read something somewhere where that was like his idea. It could be, I could be wrong, but it's because Mick Foley or Cactus Jack.
Yeah.
Cactus Jack was Mankind, I think, at the time, maybe. Or no, he was Cactus Jack. I don't know.
No, he was like Mankind because he switched over to Cactus Jack after the Outlaws whooped his ass and shit when Chainsaw debuted.
Right. So I think it was like, how can Terry Funk be with Mick Foley? If Mick Foley, I don't know. It's like Mick Foley had a different character, so Terry Funk felt like he needed an alias himself. So who knows? I don't think Terry Funk would have been world champion in WWF
because they beat Mankind's ass. He came back as Cactus Jack, and he was like, "I brought a special friend back with me."
Right.
And that's all that. I just remember them getting pushed off the stage in the dumpster. That shit was. I'll never forget that in my entire life.
There's people in there.
Yeah, it's so crazy. In the moment, that was like the craziest spot, and you look back now, and it feels like once again a transitional move.
Right.
But boy, howdy, that brings us to the main event. We got a 6-man tag match on our hands here. We got the team of the Pitbulls and Tommy Dreamer taking on the Triple Threat, which is a faction comprised of Shane Douglas, Chris Candido, and Brian Lee, accompanied by Francine.
Where the hell did I miss? For me, always in my head, it was Bam Bam Bigelow. Where the hell did it come with?
So Brian that comes. I had the same thought when I was watching all the TV leading up to this. I was like, why is fucking Underfaker a part of this? I guess it comes later in the year. I don't know exactly how it materialized. I don't know if Brian Lee like leaves the company or if Bam Bam takes him out. I don't know how that happens. But yes, it does become Bam Bam, Candido, and Douglas at some point. But this is like the first draft, I guess, of the Triple Threat. I guess actually it's the second draft because apparently, which I didn't know, the Triple Threat, the first version was Shane, Dean Malenko, and Chris Benoit, which I guess was like 94 or 95. I don't know how long that lasted. I completely forgot.
Not long, because that was like right around the time where they got pulled up for Raw.
Exactly. Yeah. So
not Raw, Nitro.
Right. Yeah. Also, Shane got brought up to Raw around the same time, so they all left. But Shane came back and started this first version, I guess, or second version of the Triple Threats. Also, so the backstory here. So the Pitbull number 1, it's the Pitbull with the hair. He got his neck broken, legit, by Shane Douglas. He had to wear like a halo around his head. It was bolted into his skull.
Fucked him up with that so many times, bro. Jerking him around and shit, bro. That shit was crazy.
Crazy moment because Pitbull number 1's out there. He can't move his right arm. He has his halo bolted into his head, and Shane Douglas grabs it and jerks him around, sends him to the mat, which is like legit. I feel like that could go wrong.
Also, that same card, dog collar match, Shane Douglas, Pitbull won.
Yes, on Barely Legal.
No, I'm talking about that card I saw with Tommy Rich and shit.
Oh, this just happened.
This just happened in March. Yeah,
that's insane.
Actually, Pitbull 1 looked pretty good. Like for an older guy, he doesn't have the hair or nothing anymore. But like, him and Shane Douglas both are in pretty decent shape to be older guys. Like, and the match wasn't that terrible because they weren't as blown up as compared to like all the other old fucks that were on the card. But they actually pretty decent. It was like a 5-minute match. It was over with.
I gotta say that this early alliteration of the Basham brothers, the Pitbulls, the crowd was rabid for him. Like it was
before,
easily the most energy from the
before
crowd.
He broke his neck. The Pitbulls were like the up and coming like next tag team up before he got his neck broke. Like they were. I think really Total Elimination kind of got the bump that they got because Pitbull number 1 got injured.
Yeah,
they were badass, man. No, just like the energy that when they came out, like the crowd was just at a fever pitch for them, and that's what I picked up on, and because I love that, man. I who doesn't like it when the wrestling crowd is just like peaking with like all the energy in the ring. It really enhances the moment, and that's what I noticed. I was like, shit, I don't know who these Pitbull guys are, but the crowd's fucking eating it up. And then they ended up, during that 6-man tag, they ended up putting on a really good match. And so like by the end, if this was, it was my first time, but like if I was there and this was like my first introduction, I'd be a fan right out the gate and have to see what these guys do next. That's what I noticed. They felt like, to me, like I said, an outsider, even though Shane Douglas is the champ and everything. And to me, they felt like the biggest stars in the match. Just by the crowd reaction alone.
Yeah, no, like I said, they were like at the top before he got his neck broke. Like they were the top of the card for the most part. Like they were, like you said, the crowd went apeshit for them.
Yeah, it's a lot of that is a testament to the story that led up to this.
Yeah.
Obviously the neck break and the Pitbull number 1 returning not long before this.
Yep.
Some people didn't think he'd ever wrestle again. So the fact that he's even wrestling at all, that plays a lot into why the crowd's so invested into it. Also, Pitbull number 2 had a pretty good run as a singles. While Pitbull number 1 was injured, he won the TV title from Shane Douglas for a bit. He was having actually pretty good match. I don't know, good. It was almost like their version of Goldberg, where he was like super intense and high energy. Maybe not as technically sound, but like the crowd was eating them up. I mean, so. And with Francine was with the Pitbulls, but then she turned on them. So all these elements of the story. You got Shane Douglas like mocking Pitbull number 1 when he was injured, when he was ringside in like a wheelchair, like
shaking him around. That like I vividly remember that as a kid, like him fucking him up with the halo on. Like
crowd hates Shane Douglas, which also plays into why they were so.
Also, too, he does not get enough credit for being maybe the number 1 heel at this time in wrestling. Like it riots, fucking filled the ring filled with beers and fucking all type batteries and shit. Like him and Bubba Ray coming up, they would fucking make the crowd literally almost commit murder on them. Like I don't know how they weren't like stabbed or killed and shit like that. Like back in the day, sometimes like how they would have these crowds fucking losing their ever loving fucking mind on how much they hated.
Yeah, that whole act is great. The match is pretty good too. It had a lot of build to it, obviously. Bill, it breaks down into a chaotic brawl pretty much immediately. I think the Pitbull's music even like continues to play throughout the match, which is awesome.
Yeah. They're playing Rob Zombie.
Yep.
It was pretty badass.
No, it was definitely. I mean, the guardrail gets brought into the ring at some point. It gets thrown into the ring. I think all of the triple threat guys end up getting thrown onto it. One of the guys, I think it's Douglas, he gets thrown through the metal
Yeah.
guardrail. It breaks in half. And then Pitbull number 2, Gorilla presses him onto the shards of barricade, which that wasn't very well thought out. That could have
Nah.
been so bad.
You know,
Rusty.
And I forgot that shout out to Shane Douglas finisher just being a regular the Bailey plex for real. I always forget about that.
Belly, yeah.
you know, one thing that I thought was a pretty cool aspect of the whole wrestling while the music is playing is if the chaos is at a fever pitch, once because the music makes everything kind of fun and light and in the mode, and then the moment the music ends, and all you have left is the audio of all the carnage, it almost adds a level of like seriousness and groundedness to the match. Like fuck, this is getting pretty brutal, and I really like that. It's a cool tonal shift from like this is fun, like a lighthearted, like just who doesn't love brawling out in the crowd, to then all you can hear is the steel and concrete and wood crashing.
And don't think that was actually Paul was in his fucking bag.
Yeah, it was no, like it was what I picked up on the match.
Yeah.
It was like the moment the music stopped, and you can pick up all like I said on all of the chaos and the audio from it. It made the match, the suspension of disbelief kind of went out the window, and I was sucked into like this like brutal violence
which is why people thought it was real. But you know what I'm saying? Like he did like all of those things. Those weren't accidents. Paul knew what the crescendo was and went to lay it off to where you got the crowd sucked in. They can't take their eyes off of everything. And then you turn that bitch up. Turn the music off. Like you said, turn the fun shit off. It's business time now. Like all of those little things that Paul did are what made ECW what they were, and were B, why Paul Heyman is a fucking genius, and why I don't know why more promotions, not even just at this time, but even after, like, why did no one hire this man to be their fucking booker or consultant or something? Like, he's a fucking genius when it comes to presentation, mood, crowd manipulation. Like, he knows what the fuck he's doing. It doesn't matter what era it is, doesn't matter what wrestlers it is, it doesn't matter. Paul knows how to fucking tinkle with the fucking crowd and just have them do whatever the fuck he wants, whether he's out there as a part of the promo or whatever it is, or from backstage, just like that, with when to turn the music off, when to focus the shift here, camera angles. Like, I just never understood why more people didn't try and take advantage of his talent, especially after ECW went under.
Yeah, so whether it was intentional or a happy accident, to me that was because I like cool production stuff. Like, I pick up on it, and that was one. The way the music ended, and then just the audio of the carnage that took over the broadcast at that point was a very grounded, like, edgy thing, and I thought it was badass.
Yeah.
No, that's a good point. Yeah, because I didn't really notice it at the moment, but now that you mentioned it, yeah, it is like when the music stopped, it's almost like it kicked into Act 2, where, you know, it started out with everybody's brawling with each other, people are getting thrown through barricades. It's almost like just fun, for lack of a better term. But then music stops, and now we're at a point where the triple threat, they got both the Pitbulls destroyed on the outside, and they're all pretty much ganging up on Tommy. So we got this real sense of peril here. And it's at this point Beulah, who is with Tommy at this point, she gets in the ring with the cookie sheet, bashes, I think, some of the guys with them. But then in comes Cloudy. You guys familiar with Cloudy?
No, I wasn't.
No, but I did chuckle to myself that Joey Styles was trying to be respectful of pronouns in 1997.
Well, so the oh my god, what's their fucking name? Chris Candido and Skip and Zip, the Body Donnas, of WWF. They had Sonny as their manager, but then they broke apart from Sonny, and then they replaced Sonny with Cloudy. Get it? Cloudy was a dude with the wig on. Like, it wasn't like it was a dude with the wig. I don't know if it was the same person, but it looked kind of the same. It was very short-lived. It was like, I think they literally brought in Cloudy for like one pay-per-view and then they were done with it. So it's a callback to the Body Donnas here, where Cloudy takes out Beulah. They choke each other to the back. They take out each other. In the ring, the triple threat, they like have some miscommunication and they hit a double drop kick on the Brian Lee by accident, which allows the Pitbulls to get back in the ring, get back into the fray. And there's a spot where there's 3 neck breakers at once, which is, alluding to Shane Douglas breaking the neck of Pitbull number 1. So it's kind of like a tit-tat kind of thing. And then on the loudspeakers, you hear, "You've got to be shitting me." So this whole thing, a masked man comes out after these neck breakers, and we're led to believe this guy is Rick Rude. Are you in RN? I guess is this really Rick Rude, or are they just like bullshit?
I wasn't sure because I know Rick Rude comes in like, I can't remember if it was around this time or maybe a little bit after, but he does end up coming to ECW. Like it was either right before the DX run or right after. So I was confused on this too. Like I didn't know if it was really him or if he was coming or if he had already came and left. Like I couldn't remember.
I didn't question it. If it wasn't Rick Rude, you fooled me. Like
I don't know what so I guess he's mad that they're not doing the neck breaker right. He says you don't know how to do a rude awakening, and then Pitbull number 1 does a neck breaker to Shane. And Rick, I guess, quote unquote, Rick Rude, takes Francine and bends her over the top rope and spanks her. Hell yeah, brother. Which brings us to the finish so the Pitbulls, their finisher is the Super Bomb, which is a second rope power bomb. They set up a table in the ring. Pitbull number 2, Pitbull bald. He super bombs Pitbull number 1. So Pitbull 1, who is the one that came back from injury, he offers himself to be power bombed through Shane, through the table, which I don't know if that was the smart strategy to go about this, because Pitbull number 1, he lands pretty hard. I think this ends the match, by the way. I guess the babyface team wins. I don't even remember if there was really a finish or if this just ended. But
one thing I did know was that it did seem like the match didn't know when to end. It was it was like they would hit like their finish. Like I don't remember it beat for beat, but I believe it was this match where I was like, oh, that's the 1, 2, 3. But then they had to do like 3 other big spots before they did the pin.
Right.
Yeah,
so I do think it was when Pitbull 1 gave the neck breaker to Shane, because that was like, those are the 2 guys they've been building all this tension behind, and it was very symbolic with the neck breaker. So I think that was the finish, and then was the spanking and the super bomb and all that. Yeah. So to your point, it was more,
I mean, it was fun. Don't get me wrong, but it felt like they didn't know when to finish it.
So basically, what we're left with is the triple threat lost. But Pitbull number 1 ends up getting stretchered out because he got power bombed off the top rope. Duh. Your neck is probably not fully healed. I can't imagine it is. You were just in a halo like a few months ago. So that's basically how the show ends, is Pitbull number 1 getting stretchered out, and I don't know where we go from there. But very chaotic ending to a chaotic show, huh, gang?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Like I said, it sold me on Barely Legal. I'll probably leave here, and then now I'm old, so I go to bed at like 10, 11 o'clock, and I'll probably go ahead and throw it on while I'm laying in bed, check it out, because it sucked me in, and I like it, Kyle. I don't know if you did this on purpose or not, but it felt like a fast one, because the beginning of the card, other than seeing Lance Storm being called a youngster, which still blew my mind. I was like, what the fuck is this guy making me watch? Like,
I'm gonna tell you,
when did I ever say I was interested in ECW? And
I'll be honest, this is one of the worst shows ever. But
no, I'll tell you this.
Yeah,
this show.
No, one of the worst ECW shows ever. Not like
96 ECW
Oh yeah,
pretty
terrible.
rough.
Yeah.
95 ECW is pretty rough. This is one of the better ECW shows that I've watched so far.
It kind of like it reminded me of like a decent show in between pay-per-views. You know what I mean? And that's what it,
Yeah.
you know, I extrapolated that's what this was. It wasn't the go.
Well, they didn't
home
have
show.
pay-per-view yet. Barely Legal is the first.
Yeah,
pay-per-view.
yeah, they're on their
special
way to
event,
their
whatever.
first pay-per-view. You know, and I understood that this was a build, but you know, between the pacing and the chaos and the Easter eggs of you know being a fan that kind of started watching wrestling about like 2 years after this, it was a fun watch and wasn't that bad.
Yeah, it was a show where like I don't know if I could call it a good show, but I had a good time watching it. So maybe it was a
Yes,
good
exactly.
show.
Which is how you fucking define ECW back then, honestly.
Right. Yeah, it's after
What-
watching this show. Yeah.
I was gonna say, what do you guys think that wouldn't fly today?
Everything.
The spanking over the top wall.
Yeah,
Yeah, probably the spanking all over the top rope.
the first thing that jumps out is the whole transgender stuff, like that he alluded to,
Yeah.
like that wouldn't get by today.
Yeah, that's not very good.
But I didn't find anything too egregious. Yeah, I think it really just came down to those. There was nothing that alluded to anything that's like I would think like cancel culture. Like there wasn't like blatant racism or I didn't find
No,
any
they never.
characters.
The worst thing they ever
overly
really did
offensive.
was the crucifixion thing. Like they like because Paul's not about that life anyway. Like he's pretty inclusive and pretty like, you know what I'm saying? Like you could tell like his Jewish background, all that. Like they never really like pushed the envelope with shit like that. Like literally the thing that they did that probably would have got him canceled was the crucifix thing. Other than that, like it was like violent shit. Like there wasn't any like controversial things like
It's
with like
blood and
race
cursing,
or,
which is like
which is par for the course for everything. Now
you might get a few homophobic slurs thrown in there every now and then, but we were all saying it, right? It
Yeah,
was
everybody
with the
said
game.
the F word back then. You know what I'm saying? Like it is what it is. But
I was. Oh, sorry, Aaron. Go ahead.
I was gonna say they didn't push the envelope like Vince, like
Yeah,
up to the line. Like you know what I'm saying? Like is this racist? Is this homophobic? Like Paul didn't really fuck around with shit like that.
no, it didn't strike me that he did. Like in this one, because I was just in my head. I was like, I wonder what would if this product was on right now, what would take the bulk of the criticism like on like social media like Twitter. And to me, I think it would have just been the wrestling itself. I think this show would have been
the actual-
ridiculed for its
the work
unsafe
rate.
nature and work rate.
Yeah,
over anything that was egregiously offensive. Now, granted, you know what gets people stirred up nowadays. So, but
that's what I was saying as far as like the homosexual and racist stuff. Like what, like leaning towards anything. Like even back then, where Paul was pushing the envelope, he didn't really go down that route for like controversy and shit like that. You know what I'm saying?
I think it would have. I think maybe it would have just been like what people would perceive as reckless and unsafe wrestling probably would have taken the bulk of the criticism.
And like you said, even with that, you said it yourself. It was a lot of protecting going along.
There was chair shots to like I said, I saw people pie facing chair shots like out in the crowd instead of I always pictured like every ECW chair shot just a home run to the head.
Yeah, putting somebody in a concussion protocol and shit. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
When I saw guys doing the whole grabbing the chair midway up and doing the whole little like grazing shot, I was
don't get me wrong. There are some egregious ones that probably wouldn't fly today, but like for the most part, because they were such a tight knit locker room and everything like that, it's not what you have in your head and what it was played up to be. Like it's like a ghost story. Like the story is always worse than what the original story or event actually was. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, exactly. And I think that was one of the things that surprised me. Yeah, I found myself surprised every time I caught a guy just blatantly being safe. I was like, I didn't know these guys cared about their bodies and their health back then.
Even with New Jack, with that documentary and everything we fucking saw, he was protecting those guys in that match. Like I said, a lot of it was because he actually liked them. You could tell when they would come out and who they would fuck up and what he do stuff to. You could tell the people he gave a shit about or at least respected. But that's what I'm saying. Like, this is supposed to be a dude that's like supposed to be the most reckless fucking wrestler in the world at that time, and he was still protecting the guys he was going against. That's what I'm saying. It's like they put this shit in your head and like pussy on a pedestal type thing, and then when you look at it, it's still like with the unicorn effect. But then when you get up close, you realize it's just a horse with a fucking horn. Like, it is what it is. You know what I'm saying?
But if New Jack doesn't like you, he throws you off a building and tries to kill you. So it's really kind of one or the other. Or
stabs you in the kidney.
or does that. So it's kind of, ebbs and flows. But yeah, no, I agree. I mean, ECW, like, you look at like deathmatch wrestling nowadays, and I feel like people turn their nose up at it. Like, a lot of it's rightfully so. A lot of it's very contrived. And it's more like we're setting up this trampoline full of barbed wire, and we have all this light tubes taped up into sword. Like, it's silly. Whereas ECW, a lot of it felt more grounded. It felt more like people trying to hurt each other. They're trying to fight each other, win a match.
To me to use as a weapon instead of Because I always found it kind of odd looking at some of the weaponry and stuff where I found myself like whenever you see like boards with barbed wire, like already like glued to them. All I can picture is the wrestler the night beforehand performing like arts and crafts.
Right. Yeah, doing his art project before school.
Just watching the glue dry, in those, and so sometimes like the humor in thinking of that would take me out of some of these like death matches that you see AEW put on, which I still end up liking, but I would be finding humor in them, whereas a guy just grabbing a barricade from the fans seems more visceral and grounded and
or a cookie sheet or a street sign from a fan.
Yeah,
fans. I mean, they'll bring video game consoles, they'll bring typewriters, they'll bring anything, and they'll just give it to the wrestlers and they'll use them, which is
literally had the kitchen sink.
Yeah. But yeah, it's like, to you guys' point, like a lot of people think ECW was violence first and then they'll figure it out. But in reality, like the stories in ECW with the Pitbulls and Shane Douglas, with the Dudley storyline, with like Sandman and Raven, and taking his wife and kid. Like there is so many layered, really good stories, really good characters. The promos, which we didn't see, that's more like on the TV show than these like super shows. Right. The promos are also good and real, and they're like things like the NWO and the Attitude Era just hijacked that whole tone and made it what they made it. So yeah, not really good stuff. If you guys had to throw a grade at the show out of 100, what do you think you would throw at it?
I'll throw like an 84.
Yeah, I'd fall in the 80s. Because there was
solid B,
I didn't find anything egregiously offensive. And when I mean offensive, I don't mean like canceling offensive, like just like something that like really turned me off. Right, there was, I found myself apathetic in one match. And then I found myself caring to varying degrees for every other match. I think that's at least a B grade in my book.
Yeah. And like I said, it's a high B for me just because of the significance of the show, which, like I said, with Lance Storm, one of my favorite wrestlers of all time, and the formation of what the mainstream knows as the Dudley Boys. This was the formation of that, or like the start of it. So
yeah, that'll be my big takeaway from this, Kyle, that I'll be appreciative of, is I was like, okay, I now can say I saw the official formation, which I don't think otherwise I would have found an excuse to at any point.
And you got to see the BWO. So really, the show really gave you everything you were looking for. So you can't sneeze at that, I guess. But, I mean, this show, it was good. It left me raw. It left me smacked. But speaking about smacked raw, appreciate you boys joining me once again. I know you guys are kind of on a hiatus right now, but where can everybody find you? Yeah, hear about you, lick you, kiss you, all that stuff.
So, RN and I, we've taken probably the longest hiatus since the show's inception back in 2019. He's got every now and then like personal life comes up. So we just took close to the last month off, but we are returning to the airwaves with the Rewind this upcoming Thursday. It should be 9 p.m. Eastern time. You can find it live on twitch.com/SmackedRaw, youtube.com/SmackedRaw podcast. You'll be able to watch watching the show live there, and even from our Twitter, like also. I don't know. Do you know anybody that watches podcasts via like Twitter streams? I don't think so. Like,
No,
not really. Yeah,
not really. But it's,
Twitch
you know,
and YouTube.
you could stumble upon it on Twitter. It's a good way to kind of just get it out there.
Also, if you check out my Instagram, I'm also doing on the side. I do my photography business, and it seems to be doing
Shooting
okay.
kids.
I was taking pictures of babies this morning, but I've done everything from bands to MMA. I'm going to another MMA event next Saturday. And yeah, if you ever want to see some cool photography, ranging from like music, street photography, even portrait photography, check out my Instagram at the Kai Tai Show.
Hell yeah! And Arian, you got your kennel, right?
Yep, I actually got the shirt on. He doesn't do shit with our page on Twitter, but if you want, follow me. I'm always talking wrestling and stirring up shit at Mr.8984. Also, if you're interested in getting puppies, we breed French bulldogs, pocket bullies, and toy poodles. Look us up on Instagram at Route 4 Kennel, or hit me up on my Facebook, Aaron Aku. So I got my boy Steve, RIP, Stone Cold Steve Austin, the first dogs to get the kennel started.
Hell
So yeah, we actually have a litter of pocket bullies on the ground right now, and we have 2 upcoming breedings for Frenchies, so we should have some fluffies on the ground as well.
Hell yeah! You got any corgis?
No, but we actually have talked about that. Like that was like me and my brother's like favorite dog when we were growing up, but we could never
corgis.
get one because we went to we went to like one of those like camp things or whatever, and they had this corgi that was the most vicious, roughest fucking cattle dog. Like we didn't know. We thought they were just like we always see like white people at the park running with shit, family dogs. This dog was chasing bulls and shit. Fucking like it was raw and was like, man, I want that fucking dog. But we have actually talked about it, but none at the time. But I actually do know somebody that breeds them. If you look, let me know.
Yeah, I don't need the raw corgi. If you find a nice white person corgi, let me know.
No, this white person. I'm just saying like that's what made me and my brother fall in love because we thought they were just like family dogs, and this dog was crazy.
Right. I'm looking for more avocado toast in my corgi than pit bull. You know what I'm saying?
Once again, thank you to Kyle and RN from the Smack Raw podcast for joining me on this lovely, lovely journey through some 1997 ECW. Go follow them at Smack Raw Pod on X and check out the link in the description for all of their various socials and where you could find them. With that, I think there's only one more thing to do, and that's to hit that brand new, right, Bartholomew? Did we finally update the jingle? Huh? We did. There was a big budget. I allocated a lot of money towards updating this intro to the hardest promotion. You used all the money, right? We got a brand new intro. All right. I haven't listened to it. I probably should have listened to it before I threw it out there, but I'm gonna play it. All right. Hit it.
WCW, ECW, WWF, who's the hardest promotion? Eric or Vince or Paulie? I think we can agree though. Heck, Myers is the shit.
Alrighty then. The hardest promotion battle of 1997 continues here. Now, if you're watching on YouTube, I will walk you through this. I'll be sharing my screen and all that stuff. But if you're listening in audio land, I will walk you through it as well. Basically, like I mentioned in the beginning, we got WWF versus WCW versus ECW. Current score as it stands right now, ECW has 25 points, WWF has 19, WCW has 14. How are these points derived? How are they earned? Well, I'll walk you through it. We got 3 sections here. We got an overall section, which is best average score of their pay-per-views, best TV, best in-ring, best out-of-ring. And then we got a section dedicated to the best. So we got the best match, best wrestler, best character / storyline, and best segments. And we also have a section with all of those things, but for the worst, which we'll get into. But first things first, let's grade this show. ECW crossing the line again. So we are grading out of 100. Out of 100, we are grading. So we've only graded 2 shows so far. Royal Rumble got a 58. Sold Out got a 52. Not great shows. Not great shows. ECW crossing the line again. Now, I don't want to take hindsight too much into account. That's kind of how we've done this so far. So I don't want to just oh, the Dudleys formed on this show. That means it was great. Well, I mean, like at the time, I don't know if it was as significant as, you know, of course, in hindsight, we know now. So I'm just looking at all this, you know, in face value, basically. So the tag match was great. The tag title match, the 6-man was fun. The Dudley stuff was fun as well. You have your Sandman, you have the Gangsters interjecting. Let me pull up my notes just to make sure I'm capturing everything. Make sure I'm not forgetting anything here. Because ECW can often be a blur. So I want to make sure I got all my I's crossed and T's dotted, as they say. Like Storm Balls Mahoney was okay. BWO Parents was fun. Steve Williams was cool. It was cool to see him. Him and Raven was pretty fun for what it was. So it was a solid show. Definitely a solid show. I'm thinking definitely the best show of the year so far. I think easily. It's definitely at least in the 60s, maybe in the 70s. I'm thinking 70. Let me type out 70 right here and just see how that tastes. 70. Is that too high, too low? I think it might be a little too low. I'm thinking 72. 72 sounds good. Because it wasn't, you know, I mean, it's like nothing really blew me away, but it was ECW doing the ECW thing very well. We got some good stories cooking, but there are some stories that are kind of... A lot of the show was like, okay, we have the pay-per-view coming up in a few months, so let's set up for that rather than making this show itself great, if that makes any sense. But not too much. I think 72 is fair. I'm not going to overthink it. 72 for ECW crossing the line again. So we refresh this. Now each company only has one grade, but it still stands. ECW has the best average score for their, we're going to call them pay-per-views. I understand this wasn't a pay-per-view technically, but they had the best average score for their special events. So they gain this 15 points and they take it away from WWF. So ECW is extending their lead here. Next section, best TV. Who has the best TV? I think, so right now we're tracking ECW as the best. And you know what? I think we might keep it there. ECW, they do show clips from their major events. So it's slightly, is that unfair? Because they do also have, you know, the great promos on ECW TVs, but not a ton of unique content, I guess. So it's tricky. It's tricky. WWF has been not good, though, so far. WCW hasn't been great either, honestly. It's been better than WWF. You know, nothing really has happened in WCW. So I can't confidently put WCW here over ECW, even though ECW is really just a clip show for the most part. But I think bang for your buck, I think ECW is the best. So ECW holds on to that best TV at 15 points. Best in-ring, we are tracking WCW. I like ECW in terms of in-ring. I like what I'm seeing from the tag team division. I like the Eliminators, Rob Van Dam, Sabu. But otherwise, it's just a lot of brawling and blood. That's not all it is. ECW is definitely, they're still at a point where they are relying on their stories and the characters, which is not a bad thing. But I'm saying, like, as bell to bell, pure bell to bell, I think WCW edges them out still a bit, based on the cruiserweight division and even like stuff from like DDP and Lex Luger. Like, they're doing decent stuff too. So you got your Benoits, your Eddies. Like, WCW's got a good, pretty well-rounded division, where the ECW is kind of a little bit more of a one note. Not one note, but I don't know. We're going to keep it as WCW. So they maintain those 10 points. Best out of ring. yeah, ECW is what we're tracking now, and I think we're gonna leave it there. Nothing on this show made me want to change it. Still got some good stuff happening, so they maintain those 10 points. Now let's look at the best match of the year. We are currently tracking the Royal Rumble as the best match. I don't like having the Royal Rumble as the best match of the year, but there's just not been a lot of good stuff happening. I think right here, I think we shift it to Eliminators versus Rob Van Dam Sabu. What are we thinking? What do we think about that? We're doing it. I'm doing it. Eliminators versus RVD Sabu. Crossing the line again. It's a little smaller. ECW robs more points from the WWF. It is. WWF is now in the negatives, and ECW is pulling away quickly. Best wrestler of the year, Stone Cold Steve Austin. Yeah, you could make an argument for the Eliminators. I'm gonna leave it as Stone Cold because he has a good blend of good wrestling matches and good promo work. Just good overall character work so far. We haven't hit his peak yet, but he's still doing better than pretty much anybody else. You could also make a case for DDP, but I don't know if DDP has the catalog of matches behind him to really steal this away from Steve Austin here. So I'm gonna leave it as Stone Cold for now. So WWF holds on to those 5 points. Best character / storyline. You're tracking Sting. We're still at the point in the will he, won't he with the NWO. It's a very, very dramatic character shift. He's very intriguing when he shows up. The crowd goes apeshit when he appears in the crowd or in the rafters. And it's very engaging because it's like, where is he going to go? Well, what is the culmination of this? It's very interesting watching it. The question is, does ECW have anything that compares? Pitbull's Pitbull's triple threat, I guess. I don't think I would put that above Sting, though. I don't think I can. Taz Sabu. It's good stuff, but again, I don't think. I'm going to leave it as Sting. We're going to leave it as Sting here. So WCW holds on to those 5 points. Best segment of the year, we got DDP giving the diamond cutter to Scott Hall on Nitro. We could throw in Pitbull #1 returning. I think this was just on ECW TV. Best segments. Introducing the first pay-per-view for ECW, perhaps. What else? Let me just rendezvous through my notes here one more time. Make sure I'm not. Dudley Boys forming. It's very interesting. BWO. What did BWO? I mean, I think we might just leave it as DDP. Yeah, the only thing on this show that I think could compare is the Dudley Boys formation. Bubba Dudley turning heel. But DDP, the diamond cutter to Scott Hall was just so significant in the character of DDP becoming as hot as he presently is as we're watching it through the timeline. So I think it's fair to just leave it as that. So WCW, hold on to those 5 points. The worst. Now we're at the worst. Worst match of the year. We are currently tracking the Royal Rumble Lucha 6-man on that show. Nothing on this show I don't think was worse than that. I wouldn't say so. Even, Tommy Rich, Terry Funk was not bad. There were some who gives a fuck, Lance Storm, Balls Mahoney, but they were quick hitters in and out. Axel Rotten versus Dr. Death, just quick squash. Nothing too bad there. Yeah, I think that Lucha 6-man holds on to it. So WWF holds on to those -3 points. Worst wrestler of the year, we are tracking Crush from WWF. Anybody on this show worse than Crush? I don't think so. I don't think so. Yeah, Crush remains. Nothing knocking out Crush from this one yet. So WWF holds on to those -3 points. Worst character / storyline. We are tracking Nick Patrick. Just his general involvement in the NWO. In fact, let me even add on to this Nick Patrick / Randy Anderson, because we are currently in the midst of, Randy Anderson getting fired. Even though he has cancer and he has kids and a wife, and Eric Bischoff's like, I don't care, tell your story, walking, doing that whole stuff. And I think we're building to a match between Nick Patrick and Randy Anderson. So that whole deal was bad, terrible. So, yeah. So WCW holds on to those -3 points. Nothing in ECW is worse than that. Worst segment, Miss NWO. Yeah, that's going to be... I'd be surprised if anything took Miss NWO out of the worst segment of the year category. Definitely nothing on this show would kick it out. So WCW holds on to those -3 points. And with that about does it. So after crossing the line, we got ECW firmly in the lead with 45 points. WCW in second with 14. WWF with a -1 point. So a lot of year to go, but man, this is shaping up to be a bloodbath if this continues. So we'll continue to follow it. Make sure you subscribe so you can follow this journey along with me. But with that, that's about all I got for you guys today. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Love you all. Big old smooches all over your face and belly. I'm hard.
Yeah. It's the hardest. Talk around and disregard it. Strip you off the ground, show you what hard is. Standing strong and proud, nothing can knock it. Let's get it started. It's the hardest. Talk around and disregard it. Strip you off the ground, show you what hard is. Standing strong and proud, nothing can knock it.